the reform took off a bit slowly, but it caught on with time with the registration of the corporate trustees and the other service providers. And because of the temporary funds that were held in the Bank of Ghana accounts, it really took some time for the other service providers to impact, But since they started refunding those contributions, I think we've seen a tremendous impact on the industry because from the standpoint of the operators, they really have gotten their hands on the funds to manage, and I'm sure there's more funds to also invest in the system. So all in all, I think it's been good. We continue to hope that it will get better, especially when the public sector funds are released. So far, it's only the private sector funds that have been released. Of course, government employs about 42 to 45% of the formal sector workers. So for those funds to be withheld, it definitely has an adverse impact on the development of the pension sector.
Okay, so with all you're saying, it looks like the informal sector is out of pension schemes.
Yeah, so far we haven't actually tackled the informal sector. The numbers I threw out had to do with the formal sector, which is basically, the snake. But the informal sector, we haven't been able to find a meaningful way to address it. There have been some approaches, but I believe that none has been as effective. I believe there are moves on the part of the government to actually take that head on. So we're very positive, yes.
Do you think that pension funds are properly invested?
That is a tricky question. Unfortunately, there are not too many avenues that the funds can be invested. It's pretty much restricted. I know the government is trying to introduce more instruments, which of a long-term nature. Pension is of long-term, commitment. So if we continue to develop long-term instruments, which we can put those funds in, I think it will help. Anybody that is involved in the management of pension funds will be looking at matching the liability and the assets. The liabilities are of long-term nature, meaning that you start working, start contributing. On the average, if you enter the scheme around 25, you start about 35 years, to work and contribute and start drawing your pensions. So obviously, if you're going to invest those funds, you're looking at that duration. So there's a need to match those liabilities with the assets. And since we have limited assets with that much duration, we need to do more. But there are some moves, I believe, on the part of the government to introduce long term.
What will you suggest to the government?
I think the government should continue to encourage the players within the industry to to manage those funds, and as much as possible not attempt to influence or control with respect to the management of the funds. Any attempt for the government or the so-called quasi-government systems to come in doesn't really help us achieve the original objective of the reform. Okay. We were of the understanding that the private entities are going to come in and complement SNIT, managing the funds. But if they come in and attempt to compete with the private organizations, it tends to defeat the purpose. So I think the industry players are looking forward to government playing a more collaborative role as opposed to coming to influence the development.
Okay.
I think people are beginning to realize the importance of long-term savings. That is, you put money away during your working life, and then when you go on retirement, you can draw on it. So people are beginning to see that yes, it can be done, no matter how small your contributions are. It eventually builds up with the effect of either tax deferment or tax waiver. So people think that, oh yes, if it is properly managed, and we have the right vehicles, it could work. And when it comes to tier 3, that is where your provident funds and also the informal sector come in. There's a lot more to do. There's tier 3, I believe, is largely untapped, and this is where the entire industry needs to focus on. Like I said, the informal sector, and even some of the provident funds within the formal sector need to be properly managed.
So we're having this breakfast meeting on 19th. What will you say before we get to have a long talk on pension?
Yeah, yes. Come and listen to the speakers. I believe there'll be something for them to take home. There's something that they will learn, and also I do believe there'll be Q&A session where they can ask their questions, and the panel will attempt to address them to the best of their ability. So I think it's going to be an exciting session that both the speakers and the audience would benefit. So I do encourage all to come. It will be a worthwhile effort.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.